I can't not dance.
How can
I think
you
that's
not?
why I picked that music for our intro.
It's pump
Like
music,
I was
man.
making it when I'm going through all the available stock music in Filmora, and I heard it, and it's just like it caught me. Like, God, I was like, this makes me want to talk about football with my friend Matt. That's why that's our intro song. Let's go. And that's exactly what we're going to do. A couple of things before we get into it, guys. First of all, thanks for tuning into Dynasty Diehards. I'm sorry I was so rude. Thank you so much. I am Nate Polvogt. I'm here with my co-host, my buddy, the one and only Matthew Chester. Guys, you can find us on Twitter.
Never rude.
Never
by the
rude.
Way. There you go.
Never, except you just interrupted me. That was kind of rude.
Damn,
so
first time.
Liar. You can find us on Twitter at FFDino Diehards. You can also find us at Rasball. That is our home. That is our company. Those are our people. At Nate Polvogt, at FF Matt Chester. That's us. My friend, how are you doing this afternoon? I missed you last week.
You know, I really needed that break. I had a refresher, and I needed that. I needed to like reinvigorate the spirits with a little week 7 nap.
Yep, no, I get that.
Nap.
Well, it was a good week to take a nap because, I mean, let's be honest, it was just painful for most people with the injuries and the bye weeks. But week 8, no buys, which is good news because we have some really unfortunate and strange news out of Miami. Tyreek Hill didn't practice today, and Tua Tagovailoa, when asked in the press conference after practice, said, I quote, "We know at some point down the line we're going to get Tyreek back."
Oh, not the old DTL down the line, huh? That's a little.
He's not on IR. He's not on IR. They're not sending him to IR as far as we know. But Matt, this is a couple weeks probably without Tyreek Hill, and you can't replace Tyreek Hill. There's nobody. You don't just replace Tyreek Hill.
He's number 1 in the league right now, right? Generally, he's been top 3 for 7 years. Yeah. Yes. You know what I do like though? I love the chaos.
I know, right?
Really, really do.
Well, as a couple of guys who manage 25 plus dynasty leagues, I mean, this both helps and hurts me this week. I'm sure.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that's going to help, but more than help, it's going to hurt me is Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol. He's not playing this week. Not a single player this season has gone into concussion protocol and played the following week.
Ooh, and he went in late, right? I think he started showing signs on the way home from the game, and they're just kind of, it's undeniable at this point. So yeah, it's going to be Sam Darnold week. Hopefully, Jalen Waddle week. We'll see.
Hopefully a Jalen Waddle week.
Raheem Mostert is probably having a rest day, a veteran rest day, because he is 31 years old. But he did not participate in practice on Wednesday because of an ankle sprain, is what they said. But
sure,
you know, veterans need the rest, so I'm not too panicked on him.
Sure, and if he doesn't play, I mean, Jeff Wilson,
all
of a sudden becomes relevant. Salvin Ahmed for all you deep league dynasty players.
I'm not so much into Salvin Ahmed, but Jeff Wilson, just year after year, man, he just doesn't go away. He's the gift that keeps on giving, completely free.
Minimal giving.
He's not a Christmas present, but he's the bubble wrap it comes in, and that's really fun too, right? And it's free.
Yeah. He's the equivalent of what the Christians call the Christmas and Easter. Christians. They show up twice a year, and I feel like that's what you get out of Jeff Wilson. You're going to get it about twice a year. Big games when you get them, but you're going to get those 2 big games a year, and that. Look, if you can figure out which 2 games those are going to be,
so I think it was 2 years ago, he got the bulk of the workload in San Francisco, probably under Mike McDaniel, and he ended up being a quiet league winner. You know, he and I won that league. It was my home league, so it sticks. I won that league with Tannehill and Jeff Wilson down the stretch, and that's memorable. You know, so Jeff Wilson has a special place in my heart, and I'm excited to see him come back.
Sure. No, I get it. I mean, he's 27. He's still got gas in the tank. He had 2 great games, 3, 4 solid games last season. Maybe he gives us 3 or 4 here.
He's hipster Gus Edwards. Is that fair? He's less known, less cool, he's just more Jeff Wilson,
right?
Gus Edwards.
whatever. You guys don't even know who Jeff Wilson is.
Yeah, I knew about him way before he was cool. So
I knew about way
jump
before
on this
you guys knew about him.
bandwagon.
Yeah, now he's a sellout. I knew him before he was cool.
That's it.
That's 100% it. I'm sorry, I am parched. We've got a cold front rolling in. It's 71 degrees today, but it's dry as hell. And it's going to be 30 degrees on Sunday.
Yikes. That's that Colorado weather.
That's that Colorado weather. That's why I want to live in Mexico instead.
That'll be nice, though. You can have a fire outside. Yeah, I don't mind it.
I'm not going to have a fire out. I'm not going outside.
As a New Orleanian, I don't know what 30 degrees means, but I imagine it's like beautiful and crisp, and it probably looks like your t-shirt. So I love Colorado 30-degree weather from, through the computer screen.
Yeah, you don't want to be here. It's going to be snowy and cold, and it hurts. That's the biggest thing I think people don't get about the dry cold. It hurts your bones.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, it hurts. Like, it chills you to the bone if you don't have enough clothing on.
Well, maybe next week you can show us what you mean by we can have this episode and you can stream from outside. You can build a fire. You can show us how nice Colorado is. Oh, you quit.
I'm trying to move to Mexico, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you how great Colorado is. I mean, it is pretty great, but if I'm going to be in the States, this is the place to be. I want to give a shout out to Albert Merrickwood in the chat. He says, hello, everyone. Albert, thank you for being one of our most loyal viewers. We appreciate you tuning in pretty much every week, all season and off season. It's been great to have you. This episode's a little different. It's been a busy week. There aren't a whole lot of trades. We've scanned
I'm excited
the market.
about it. I'm excited about it.
It's pretty mellow.
The
I'm
waiver
excited
wire
too.
And the player takes have gotten a little bit stagnant. They've gotten a little bit old, and we can't just keep going on about player takes and has this player risen? Has this player fallen? Like, of course, Jahan Dotson has fallen. Of course, there's these things that everybody's talking about. But what I did with my time off from playing hooky with you last week was I sat down and I made a spreadsheet because everything had gotten jumbled in my brain. And I've got, I think, 12 leagues right here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, 12. So I've got 12 teams that are not in their first year, that are not orphans. And I wanted to track how my teams had been doing over the last 2 years and where they are and what I needed to do. So in my time off, in my little brief hiatus in deciding where I wanted to go next, I decided to do it visually. So I made a spreadsheet and I put all my third-year teams together. You can see those are the 8 up top. Because I only got into Dynasty, like a lot of people, we took the plunge from regular fantasy, seasonal, playing against your friends in ESPN, and you're always the one harassing them and never enough action to satisfy. And so you just look for more and more and more, and then you find Dynasty. And I think a lot of people took that step during the pandemic, and I was certainly one of them. And by the end of the off season, I had accumulated like 8 teams. And then I took it a little bit slower last year and only put up 4 new teams. And I needed to kind of organize in my brain because so sometimes movies come out and 2 movies will come out at kind of the same time and they'll kind of be the same type of movie, right? Like The Prestige and The Illusionist, or The Ring and The Grudge. And that'll just kind of happen. And so sometimes it'll happen where, like, I got into Pigskin as the second team on the list, and Bortles is the 8th team on the first list. And I got into those 2 teams at the same time, and they were kind of built the same because it's you play the market and the draft boards as they are at the time, and they looked very similar, and I took them in different directions. And I just needed to kind of measure out everything and see where all these teams stood and give an honest assessment after week 6. You're almost halfway. You're at the halfway point in the regular season. You need to make a decision in Dynasty with what you want to do. And there's probably a third of the team, probably a quarter of the teams are all very heavy contenders, very obvious. Probably a quarter of the teams are very clearly tanking. And then there's that middle 6 that are generally hanging around the middle, and you're not sure what you're going to do. And different leagues, it tends to guide you in different directions. Like I'm in a league with 12 people, and 8 of them get into the playoffs. Well, that's a different type of build. And if I don't have something written down, it's just going to rattle around in my brain like 200 loose M&Ms, and they're going to be constantly asking me, well, how many blue M&Ms do you have? And I don't goddamn know. I don't know at all. So I decided to take the week off, and in that time, I wanted to do an assessment, and this is what I came up with. What do you notice about it? How do you feel about this? Is this okay that we're doing a kind of an off-brand episode?
Yeah, obviously. I greenlit it.
Good.
Yeah, no, I love this.
Because I think something that gets Nate and I are working hard, and we showed up and we were like, I don't have a show sheet. And I was like, I don't have a show sheet either. And he's like, all right, well, let's just rip through some player profiles. And I was like, hey man, I did this. Can we go over this? And he saw it and he's like, all right, I'll change the thumbnail right now. Let's just do a tool presentation.
We're dynasty managers, right? And what do you have to be as a dynasty manager? You have to be flexible. I love
and self-aware.
And self-aware. We're halfway through the season, and you are 100% correct. At this point, you pretty much know which teams are contenders and which teams are just out the window. I mean, you've got 3 teams on this list here. You're kind of undecided, like they could go either way, and I get that. But I love your organization here, and I love the fact that you're forcing yourself to look at your teams and take stock of all of your dynasty rosters all in one place. You've got 2 teams you're tanking. Perfect. All in all, man, like I'm impressed with your ability to have this many contenders. We're sitting at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of 15.
Let's skip first year. Let's skip first year because first year is First year's a different beast, so I should have taken that out of the bottom 2 rows.
Well, that is a different beast.
It is, and you never know. But I left out the orphans, and I tried to crop out the first year teams, but yeah, it feels a lot better to have these things, like you said when you mentioned the show, greenlit. Some of these teams are greenlit, like you're going for it, buddy.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that you want to buy Tyreek Hill for 2 firsts, because look what happens later in the week. So I had an offer this week on a greenlit 6-0 team, and it was basically 0 RB. And then I ended up buying ETN for somebody's early first, which was a move that I would never, ever do in a vacuum. But it was somebody who I had their 24 first from a year ago, and they orphaned their team, and somebody new came on, and just for the health of the league, I sold them back their own 24 first for ETN, which gave them freedom to tank. So it's not just a burned year for them where they're trying to, when you're tanking, if you don't have your own picks, you do not want to get caught up in sunk cost fallacy where you say, well, I already give away that first. If I don't get that first back, then why would I want to rebuild? Screw that person who has my first. I get that notion, and I do want to take that notion all the time. But if the first is already gone, you just have to kind of play with it around that. And this person could have done that, but just to keep this league healthy, I sold them back their first and let them freely tank their new orphan with their own first by giving up ETN, which you should do if you just took on an orphan. If you are tanking, you sell ETN, especially if you can get Caleb Williams. And he did. The league's happier. The league's healthier. It's a better economy because of it. And I did something that I never would suggest doing. I bought a running back, and it worked out with ETN. Thank goodness. All right, I need to catch a breath. How do you feel? How are you feeling?
I need to implement this for myself. Honestly, this is a fantastic tool. People get so caught up in season of managing your rosters in season that they forget in dynasty, especially newer dynasty managers, that you've got to keep trading. You've got to keep moving parts. You've got to keep moving players, because Jalen Reagor, here's a fantastic example. His rookie season, after like 3 or 4 weeks, to me, it became very clear this guy wasn't it. He wasn't it. But there were a lot of people that were still like, just give him time. Just give him time. It's like, here, You give him time. And I sold off every freaking share of Jalen Reagor I had by week 10 of his rookie season.
You couldn't do that now, by the way. You couldn't do that now with Quentin Johnson because of Jalen Reagor. Sorry,
right.
Go ahead.
No, you're 100% right. But I did that all in season. And if I hadn't done that, I'm sitting with these useless shares of Jalen Reagor, and I'm not going to get a pick back. I'm not even going to get a bench piece back because he's not even
fab.
Not even fab.
Nothing.
You're going to get absolutely nothing for Jalen Reagor.
Right.
That's what you've got. And that was my first year playing Dynasty.
Okay. So was he a rookie? Was he a rookie that year?
Yeah.
So it was probably 2019. 2020. Wow.
2020. So
it couldn't have been 2020 because I started in 2020, and that was the Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts year. Jalen Reagor was 2019. Oh no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. You're right. I'm wrong. 2021 was Chase and Pitts and Fields and Trey Lance and sure. Oh, and can we speak on that for a second? That Trevor Lawrence right now, as much as we freaked out and people would just throw their point getting players to the wind to tank and get to Trevor Lawrence. And then they get to Trevor Lawrence and look where he's at right now compared to Jamar Chase, compared to Justin Fields, compared to even hangers on with Kyle Pitts, guilty. Don't throw away value to tank points. A buddy of mine at the Undroppables, Derek Fuchs, good dude, good dynasty player, smart, sharp fella. I saw him post something to say, am I tanking right? And he sold Dak Prescott and David Montgomery for somebody's 24 first, second, third, fourth, fifth. 3 of those picks don't matter. So basically you sold Dak Prescott and David Montgomery to a contender for their late first and second. It's not that important to lose points because we don't know enough. It's not definite. You're not definitely getting a 101 pick with the 101. You might be getting a 101 pick with Jamar Chase at 106 because people get so clever and because we just don't actually know. So don't hurt yourself to tank. Nothing is that concrete. Stay fluid.
Right.
You know, is that that's all I have to say about that. I saw it right before we got on. I'm a little upset about it.
I'm a big believer in known assets over unknown assets. And that's how I approach Dynasty because I look at picks as it's an unknown asset, right? Everybody was taking Bijan at 101. Dude, if Arthur Smith remains the head coach there, Bijan's value's tanked, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, and Anthony Richardson's way up. And how many 104, 105 Strouds did you get because people got too clever with Gibbs? And maybe that'll work out. But
CJ Stroud's my most rostered quarterback in Dynasty.
Because if you stay fluid, he will fall to you when you trade back from 102 to 104 and get 3 seconds on top. And one of those seconds might be Sam Laporta. And now what if you're looking at an injured Anthony Richardson, which you tanked to get the 102. Or you've got Bryce Young. Well, now you have to tank two. Now you have to take a second year in a row because it's not an automatic get out of jail free card just because you get a high pick.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden, one person's sitting with Anthony Richardson. They're like, yeah, well, I got the better asset. And you're like, well, you kind of did probably maybe in a lot of people's eyes, but I fell back to the 104. And now I've also got Sam Laporta, Marvin Mims, and I messed up with Tank Bigsby. Who gives a crap? He was free along with Sam Laporta and Marvin Mims, you know? So it's just,
Tank Bigsby,
you can't be so concrete. You cannot be so committed to anything that you hurt yourself if you're not open to being wrong. You have to be open to being wrong.
Well, and it drives me nuts, the people who are talking about Caleb Williams like it's a definite.
If I miss Caleb Williams and get Marvin Harrison Jr., do you know how much I'm going to be upset? 0, a big fat 0%. 0%. You know what? And so next year's class, I've heard that there's going to be 5 first-round quarterbacks in the NFL draft. I heard there's going to be 5 first-round wide receivers in the NFL draft. Then they got Brock Bowers. Then you got Quinshon Judson. So now what was the 106 this year where you're like, well, there's a hard cutoff at JSN/Gibbs, and sometimes you get Stroud there at 106 accidentally. I think that the 106, 107 next year it could possibly be at 112, 201. And then at 201, can you imagine getting an Addison comp at 201? So don't be scared of taking on a 110. Don't think that those are worthless like we've thought in previous years.
Right.
Justin Herbert, end of the first. Justin Jefferson, end of the first. Waddle, Devontae Smith. Like, it happens over and over and over where we don't know enough to be so resolute with our smartness and our see-aheadedness. You got to stay fluid and just take the extra pieces.
How many people in 2020, and I know the answer to this, it's a lot. We're taking CEH in the first 5 picks of the first round in rookie drafts. I kept seeing it happen. And in my brain, I was new to the industry. I was new to Dynasty. I hadn't followed a ton of college the previous year for the first time in years. I knew who Clyde Edwards-Helaire was. I was mostly unimpressed with what I'd seen out of him at LSU. And then all of a sudden, everyone's hot on CEH. And I'm sitting here going, I'm not drafting this kid.
He's sexy Singletary, you know?
He's not even sexy Singletary. He's less efficient Singletary.
Well, he's sexy with that championship ring on, and people noticed that a lot, and they forgot about all of their priors.
I'm sure it gets him laid tons. Good for him. It doesn't make him a good running.
We'll call him. We'll say CEH 101 night stand.
Yes,
I like that. All right,
I like that. The same thing with Antonio Gibson. Look, okay, get excited. He was a wide receiver converted to running back who had 33 carries in college.
I'll be honest with you. I've been buying a lot of Antonio Gibson lately. A lot.
Why?
Because when he's given the workload, he's very good. And when he's given the workload, the first 2 years he had in the league, he was a top 12, I think he was a running back 1, a low-end running back 1. Both of his first years in the league. Now he's getting the Brandon Ayuk doghouse treatment, and we're going to all of a sudden forget that. You know what? I don't think he's going to be a Washington Commander much longer. And even if it takes a year or 2 to get out of there, people are giving him away basically for free. And in some cases, they're giving him away for negative value. And that's a weird anomaly that you can find sometimes.
Which we've talked about.
We have talked about this. My first time finding a weird negative trade value anomaly player was Cam Newton when he first got fired by Belichick off of the New England Patriots. And his trade value, you could send a trade that probably wouldn't get accepted, but if you also added their Cam Newton getting off their team, they were like, whoa, what a chance I have. And he had negative trade value where he would get a trade done by somebody who was losing too much value because they also got to get rid of him. Antonio Gibson's almost there right now. I don't think that necessarily you could send a third and get him back, but recently I think I sent in the heat of the moment, I got something done. I got rid of Jaleel McLaughlin. Adam Thielen was a main part of it. Josh Reynolds and you know what it was? It was Latavius Murray and Taysom Hill. Latavius Murray, Taysom Hill, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Josh Reynolds or something. It was just a bunch of nobodies that I'm trying to ditch points. So I need those guys to get off my roster because they're not going to be there next year. And that's where it's okay to get rid of points, is if they're not going to be there next year. And in that whole conglomeration, I got back a second and a third, and I'm very happy with that. And Antonio Gibson, which was a free piece. And honestly, if I sent all those pieces, I don't know that I would have gotten a second and a third back. But I throw Antonio Gibson coming back, and somebody's like, yeah, get him off my roster. And I got space for all 4 of these players. And it's like, great, because I don't have space for all 4 of these players. And it's a nice little negative value thingy.
Interesting. But yeah, it's very true. It's very true, because we talked about it in relation to Ezekiel Elliott. He turned into a negative value. So it's interesting. Yeah, I love this spreadsheet, Matt. It's brilliant.
Okay, now let's get to it real quick. Can you take this for 20 seconds while I go fix myself a cocktail?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let me set this up. And you cut me off when you get a chance because your boy's thirsty. All right. So I hope y'all can see the screen. If you can't, I will describe this to you like a blind grandma that I'm going to see in a hospital. And I want to participate with you, but all I want to really do is watch The Office. So the first 5 rows, I've got my third year teams, and they're all content. In my first 8 rows, I've got my third year teams. They're all divided up by the first 5 are contenders. They're very green rows. The 6th row is undecided. I made it a yellow row, and the 7th and 8th are tanking teams. They're my only tanking teams, so I guess after 2 years, I'm able to establish a little bit more because I don't like tanking. I don't like losing. I don't think that the 102 is that much different from the 104. And if you look back over the last few draft classes, it's true. So it doesn't matter that much. But a few committed tankers in my third year teams. The reason that I needed to do this is because I needed to get all of my weekly wins and losses into the right place. Because as a whole, I had a fantastic week and I wanted to celebrate it and I wasn't sure how. And if you're going to explain it to a layman, like I wanted to explain it to my sister, Lily, I'm so happy I had this incredible week. You have no idea. I went 38-10, but 2 of those losses are from tanks and one of those losses from undecided. And she's like, I don't know what you're saying. And I'm like, I'm so happy that you're a healthy person. So I decided to make it into a spreadsheet, and doing that gave me the organization to really make decisions on the rest of my year and how I want to maneuver with these rosters that I have. So in the third year teams, I have 5 definite contenders. The undecided, Nate, since I made this chart, I have sold off all of my undecided all the win now pieces on this undecided FLA roster. And it was only because of this visual thing that I made for myself. And there's no right way to do it. You decide what's important to you. You put it into the titles. You decide which teams you're going to maneuver with after that. And since then, this morning I sold Stephon Diggs for a 25 first and Devontae Smith. And I also gave him Gus Edwards because I don't care, because I wanted this yellow to become an orange. But it's just that time of year where you really want to. I can't handle more than memorizing 5 rosters, and I don't think anybody should. I don't think it's healthy. I think that spreadsheets, once you get to a certain point where you're a committed dynasty player, you need to have a spreadsheet, even after 2 or 3. Just keep it simple, because also when you want to make a move, you want this stuff documented so you can go there immediately and start maneuvering around. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, yeah, 100%. But this is how my brain works. Everything in order.
You're blessed, dude. You're blessed. That's wonderful. I wish.
Well, no, I'm saying my brain needs this.
Oh, okay.
This all makes sense. But God, I wish my brain worked like that.
Well, it's bingo balls, right? If you're not registering it somehow.
Right, exactly.
So I think we're hitting our time limit. It's 29 minutes. Your wife has to go bring your kid to bingo.
No, I have to go pick the kid up from school. She has to go to bingo by herself with 2 friends.
Oh, well, that's fun.
So it's me and the kid. We're gonna go get fast food for dinner. Like we're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be a blast.
You're gonna Nate out. Yeah,
right. We never eat fast food in our house anymore, so I'm looking forward to it.
Hey,
he loves Burger King.
In Mexico, it's all fast.
No, it's all very slow, and it's fucking glorious.
Okay, the lifestyle's slow, but is the food?
Yeah, they call it a Mexico Minute for a reason. Everything moves slow. You go out for dinner. You go out for dinner. It could be 30 minutes before you get your food, but you don't care because you're sipping a margarita, having a cerveza,
empingao, simpatico, all those good things.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in. everybody who listened, watched, to our absolute shenanigans about Dynasty Fantasy Football, Mexico. I don't even remember what we talked about at the beginning of the show, but it's all been great.
I don't know.
Guys, make sure to like.
I hope it awakened the brain. That's all we've got. You know, we're at that weird midway point. I hope that it awakened the brain and got you thinking of what tools you can bring back into your realm to make you a better fantasy player, to make you a better dynasty player. Because making that graph really helped me way more than I ever thought it possibly could. Being able to visualize it and go back to it without remembering it is it's a reset. It's basically, I'm taking off my shoes and walking into my house for the first time, and I'm seeing a fresh, clean house. I know what to do now, and I'm really excited. And if you have an hour where you're bored, sit down, open a spreadsheet, see what you like, see how you like it, visualize it, and enjoy the amount of chaos that we're getting dumped on us, because it's so much, it's so overwhelming that it can tend to become a glut of information. And just restating it and like refreshing, kind of dusting off the game board that we're playing on makes the game board a lot more fun.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, guys, make sure that you like this video if you're on YouTube. If you are on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure to like and follow, subscribe, find us everywhere. We are at Razzball on Twitter, at FF Diehards. I'm Nate Polvogt. That dude over that way is Matt Chester. Thanks for spending your Wednesday afternoon with us. We'll see you next week.